Hello and welcome to Evidence Mastery. I'm your host, Dr. Massoud Toussi, and today we're diving into something that is, well, a real game changer from the FDA. Okay, so today we're breaking down a really important new draft guidance from the FDA called Integrating Randomized Controlled Trials for Drug and Biological Products into Routine Clinical Practice. Now, keep in mind what we're doing here is a summary to give you the key highlights. I definitely encourage you to grab the full document to get all the rich details. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the big idea, this new paradigm they're proposing. Then we'll map out the roles for everyone involved. After that, we'll see how trials can be better aligned with actual clinical practice, talk about a quality by design approach, and finally, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of some critical design factors. So let's kick things off with the why. What's the big idea here? Well, the FDA is really trying to shake things up. They want to support a whole new way of doing clinical trials by weaving them right into the fabric of everyday patient care. And the potential wins here? They're huge. We're talking about tackling some of the oldest headaches in clinical research. By bringing trials to the patients, right where they are, we can make it so much easier for people to participate. And that means we can finally enroll populations that actually reflect the real world, making our results way more generalizable. Plus, we get to tap into the expertise that's already out there and hopefully speed up the whole process. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about tweaking a few rules. This new approach completely redefines who does what. It's like creating a whole new playbook for how everyone collaborates. First things first, the clinical investigator. Their fundamental role as the responsible leader of the team, that doesn't change one bit. They are still the captain of the ship, the person ultimately responsible for protecting the rights, safety, and welfare of every single participant. But here's where things get new and exciting. The guidance introduces this idea of the local healthcare provider, or HCP. Think of this as a provider who helps out with specific, limited tasks for the trial, but isn't considered formal trial staff. They don't have to memorize the entire complex protocol to be a huge help. And this table spells out that division of labor perfectly. You see, the really critical calls, like determining if a patient is eligible or figuring out if a side effect was caused by the study drug, that stuff stays firmly with the core trial team. Meanwhile, the local HCPs can jump in and handle things they do every single day, like referring potential patients or performing routine medical procedures, all within the framework of the protocol, of course. And it's this new way of sharing the workload that makes the next piece of the puzzle fall into place, truly aligning the trial with the day-to-day realities of clinical practice. The golden rule here, it's all about minimizing disruption. The most successful trials are going to be the ones where data is collected during a patient's normal doctor visit, without a bunch of extra burdensome procedures. Now, the guidance is flexible. If that's not totally possible, a hybrid approach is fine, blending that routine data collection with a few study-specific tasks. So you might be thinking, this sounds great, but how do we make sure the science is still solid in this more flexible setup? Well, that's a great question. And the FDA has a clear answer, something they call a quality by design approach. Quality by design, or QBD, is all about being smart and proactive. It's a systematic way of baking quality into the trial's DNA right from the very beginning. The whole idea is to laser focus on what is absolutely essential for participant safety and reliable results, and then stripping away all the noise that doesn't help you reach those goals. It really comes down to a simple two-step process. First, figure out what's absolutely mission critical. Then, get rid of, or at least simplify, everything that isn't. It's this disciplined way of thinking that makes a streamlined protocol possible and allows these trials to fit neatly into a busy, real-world clinic. So that's the big question, right? If we're supposed to focus on what's critical, what does that actually mean in practice? Let's dig into a few of the most important design factors the guidance highlights. All right, first up, let's start at the very beginning. How do you figure out who should even be in the trial population? And the guidance here is crystal clear. Keep it simple. The eligibility criteria should be minimal and, wherever possible, based on data that's already collected in routine care. This means using objective things like lab results or imaging, so a local provider can easily spot a potential participant without needing extensive protocol-specific training. Okay, let's talk about a big one, randomization and blinding. We all know blinding is the gold standard for controlling bias. But, and this is a big but, the FDA gets it. They recognize that in a real-world setting, blinding can add a ton of complexity and cost. So if blinding just isn't feasible, the guidance suggests other measures, like using a blinded independent central committee to assess outcomes. Now, what about safety monitoring? Here again, the guidance is pushing for a smarter, more focused approach instead of the old collect absolutely everything mindset, especially for drugs that already have a well-understood safety profile. So instead of getting bogged down, the focus can be on what's most critical. This requires a multi-layered strategy, selectively collecting key events, using tools like real-time EHR monitoring, clearly instructing participants on what to report, and critically, making sure the principal investigator maintains full oversight. When you boil it all down, the entire philosophy is captured in one powerful sentence from the guidance itself. The integration of RCTs into clinical practice should not interfere with the appropriate delivery or administration of patient care. That's the North Star here. Research must always support, not hinder, care. So what does this all mean for the future? This isn't just a technical document. It signals a significant shift towards making clinical research faster, more inclusive, more relevant to real-world practice, and fundamentally more centered around the patient. Thank you so much for joining us on Evidence Mastery. I'm Dr. Massoud Toussi. If you want to dive deeper into these topics, be on the lookout for my upcoming book, Real-World Evidence, Methods and Mastery. It'll be available on Amazon.com in 2027. We'll see you next time.